Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2017-2018 Board of Aldermen Budget Deliberations. Today is May 3rd, 2017, and today we are here for the departmental presentation portion of the aldermanic budget process. But before we begin, will everyone please join me as we salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Secretary, will you please take the roll?
Alderman Anderson. Alderman Beatty. Alderman Bevan.
Here.
Alderman Beer.
Madam Secretary, Alderman Beer would like to be excused.
Thank you. Alderman Casey.
Here.
Alderman Gurman. Here. Alderman Ginatasio.
Here.
Alderman Golden.
Madam Secretary, Alderman Golden would like to be excused.
Thank you. Alderman Grant.
Here.
Alderman Hardiman. Here. Alderman Shaw. Alderman Smith. Alderman Vecchiarelli. Here. Alderman Vitro. Here. Alderman Vitale. 12 present, Mr. Chairman.
We have 12 present. We have a quorum. At this point, the first departmental organization on our agenda is Boys and Girls Club, page 92, account number 4826. You can begin at any time, Megan.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me tonight. For the record, I did not skip out on the last meeting. I just wasn't aware of it, so I apologize. My name is Megan Altamari. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the Executive Director at the Boys and Girls Club, and tonight I have the pleasure of having with me my Board President, Tom Bach.
Good evening.
So I'd just quickly like to give you a little update on where the Boys and Girls Club is and what we've been up to the past year. We've been a little bit busy. You guys are getting a packet. I apologize, I forgot to pass it out ahead of time. It just quickly goes over what our program does. The first thing I'd like to point out is that our programs this year that we offered through our after-school program, we increased to 94 programs. So these programs are in addition to our general after-school program. They're enrichment programs. I have a full list on the next page. It's everything from leadership programs for kids in middle school and high school to running club to healthy eating programs to homework programs to photography programs and sports clubs and all sorts of things. These programs are at no additional cost to our members, and our after-school fee is $100 for the entire year. So we really do try to make this an affordable program for everybody in the community. One of the new things that we added to our after-school program this year is transportation. So in the past, we were lucky enough to have transportation through the Board of Education, but as schools were redistricted and kids were moved around, we were faced with having to find a way to get our kids to the Boys and Girls Club. So after months of research and trying to figure out what to do, we were able to secure a contract with Durham School Services, and we provided school busing from 4 of our elementary schools here in Milford. So we expanded just from JFK and Pumpkin to now also serve Matthewson and Meadowside, in addition to West Shore Middle School and Jonathan Law High School. So we were really excited about that. Then we just have some statistics and demographics about the ages of our members and things like that. And for the 2016-17 school year, we have served 496 kids, which is up 20% last year's 411 kids. So as you can see on the membership chart, we've had pretty steady growth year after year, and proves that there's a need for a Boys and Girls Club here in our community. There's just another chart that goes over membership financials. These are the financials of members that take part in our program and where they fall. We use the CDBG HUD income levels to determine these different areas, and these are all self-reported by the families. Just some facts and statistics about kids that come to clubs and how it makes them attend school more and different things like that. And then you can see that we have our financials where we have our income and our expenses. Once again, we have seen continual growth. While it looks like maybe we have a lot more money this year than we had last year, we also have a lot more expenses this year with our transportation and things like that. So we're continually trying to find different ways to raise money, and we're very, very grateful for the money that we get here from the city of Milford. But with the state funding potentially on the line right now, we are in a very challenging time. So we're trying to figure out how we could potentially make up that deficit if things continue to go as they have. Just more breakdown, and then if you guys do nothing, if you read none of these papers and you throw them away, just please read the last 8 pages. They're all testimonies from the kids that come to the Boys and Girls Club. These aren't what I said, these aren't what the staff said, these are physically out of the kids' mouths. And it makes me love my job just reading these things and showing what a difference we're making in the kids' lives. So, thank you for your time. Does anybody have any questions about the Boys and Girls Club?
I have one, an obvious one, Megan.
Yeah.
I see that your departmental request is $100,000.
Yes, sir.
And the mayor and the Board of Finance has recommended $85,000. What did you, what was the other $15,000 that you requested for this?
So we are looking at about a $34,000 deficit from the state funding. So we were hoping to be able to make that up wherever we possibly can. And then in addition, it's not like we're ever cutting back services. We're just trying to expand and be able to serve more kids, and that's our goal every year. So with the additional funds, we'll be able to serve more kids, or potentially the same amount of kids, depending on what happens statewide, or even federally, for that matter. Federal funding is also in jeopardy. You have
the room for more kids? How much more?
We do.
You do?
We still have room for more kids, and we have a lot of potential in our teen program. So we're hoping to have a lot of growth there within the next year. And we're going to put a big focus on the teen programming.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes.
Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Vitro. Would you say the state is, you're getting 34,000 short from the state
That's
this
what
year?
we're projected to be cut, yes.
Okay.
If they cut, I mean, who knows what
If they come through their proposal?
That's
Okay.
where it stands right now.
All right, thank you.
Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Thank you. Good evening. I was wondering what the additional cost that you have now for the busing.
$48,000.
Alderman Shaw.
Thank you, Chairman. I think I finally, I was looking at the membership financials, and I think I finally worked it out, but a majority of your members are at 80% AMI or below. So I'm looking at maybe 55%, or is that about right? Is that?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you. Good evening, Megan. I just wanted to comment. This is a very well-prepared presentation that you handed out to all of us.
Thank you.
In regards to the busing, I know that your expense has gone up, but has that increased your enrollment, being able to bus in kids from further distance?
I think we've been able to serve additional kids. We still have potential to grow at both of the new schools, so there's a lot of, we weren't able to put this out until almost the beginning of August, so that's a little stressful for parents that are trying to figure out what they're doing with their children after school. So I think we have potential to grow even more at Matthewson and Meadowside, but both my JFK and Pumpkin buses are filled. I even have waiting lists. So.
Just to follow up, Mr. Chairman, through you, I know there was some discussion at some point of possibly having another facility on the other side of town. If your busing was to increase, would you be able to handle all of the demand through each school throughout the city?
If we had a building on the other side of town, I think that would be amazing.
So basically where you are now, how much more room do you have for
If things
Additional.
stay, if we have exactly the same amount of rooms we have and we don't get any additional rooms in Simon Lake, we could probably hold another 30 kids in elementary school. And then my middle school and high school program, I have room for probably about another 50 kids. So that's another 80 kids.
Okay, thank you.
There is opportunity right where we are. There are rooms that are essentially used for storage today that could be turned into rooms that the Boys and Girls Club could use. So at some point, if those rooms are vacated and turned over to the Boys and Girls Club, we could continue to grow.
We will
Okay,
fill them.
thank you. That's good to know. Good information. Thank you.
Alderman Beatty.
Hi, and thank you for what you do in the community. The last time we discussed the Boys and Girls Club, I was under the impression that the goal was to have another site. And the presentation talked about 2 Milfords and differences in income variation, that it wasn't evenly distributed, and that the busing didn't really address all the needs. It would be better to have another facility at 2 spots in town. And so you said it was amazing, as if it's pie in the sky. Is it part of what you think is necessary to continue serving the people that you've identified as a need? And
Yeah, I think
reaching-
we would love the opportunity to serve the children on the other side of town. I don't think where we're currently located is probably conducive to serving both sides, because we are kind of tucked away in the corner. And
it's not conducive. You
Yeah,
said.
it would be a long commute for parents trying to pick their kids up after school.
Right.
What was the other part of the question? The bus. Oh, so just one point I did want to make out is it has nothing to do with income on one side of town or the other. Our goal is to keep our fees low and make sure there's no barriers for anyone to attend our program.
Right.
So
No,
I just want to make that clear.
No, that's clear. I maybe didn't make it clear. I thought that I was under the understanding that there was some variation among the income distribution among families and where in town they come from. Maybe not.
Not that I'm aware of. Are you? No. Okay. Not that I'm
Okay.
aware of. I'm sorry.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Good evening. Welcome to our budget hearings. Megan, I know you had indicated the fact that there might be a $34,000 deficit next year in state funding. So does that kick into the idea of projected membership fees going up for different programs?
That is something that we have been looking at. It's been my personal goal since day one to keep the fees low and affordable. But as I have researched other programs and other clubs throughout the state, it is something that we are looking at. I guess we can't push it out of the realm of possibility, but it's not a goal.
and the good thing really this year is the golf tournament. So you should be realizing most of that money anyway from that deficit, from what I hear, as Montano putting the golf tournament on. Should you not?
Exactly. And that's something that we've already budgeted for, and that
Yeah,
next year.
For
Well,
next year?
yes.
And what was that number that you included?
Well, we included 35 because we don't know exactly how we're going to
35.
fare. But in order for us to continue to see growth, like that was money that we were anticipating that we'd be able to grow our program, not be able to fill a hole that we're falling into.
And obviously, that's a big help in the towards the payment. Thank you.
Raymond, I think you might know that whether a family has money or doesn't have money, especially the ones that need us most that don't have money, it's never a bar for those children to come to the club. We find a way for those children to come to the club and participate in the programs, whatever they are.
I understand that, Tom. Thank you.
Alderman Shaw.
And I'm sorry, and you probably have addressed this, I just want to be clear. Due to CDBG budget cuts or whatever happens to your program, when you look at that, do you cut back on the programs, or is it the number of people number of children you can bring in?
That's a good question.
Or is it a combination of both?
Probably a combination of both. Our program, we run as tight of a program budget as we possibly can. We get volunteers when we can get volunteers, but I mean, it probably would, if I'm speaking for everyone here, I guess, but we would probably have to reduce services in some capacity. I don't know exactly what it would look like or how.
You know, our most critical issue at the club is to make sure the kids are safe. So we're very vigilant on the number of counselors that we have there.
Ratios are really important.
Ratios are important. So one thing we can never give up is the manpower. And the manpower is the biggest part of our budget. It's the biggest expense that we have, really, is all
It
of
is.
the part-time and full-time employees that we have. And that's strictly to keep the children safe at the club.
Thank you again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One follow-up question on Alderman Vitale. What is the, two questions really. What is the average fee that the other Boys and Girls Village or clubs are charging in the state?
So I found that they range. Some of them are $200 a year. Some of them are, I mean, one was like $800 a year, plus they have to pay for all of the different programs and things like that. But I'm speaking for everyone at this point, even though it's my opinion. My goal is to keep the fees at the club low. I mean, I can't tell you how many teens are like, I see them on the street, I'm like, why aren't you at the club playing basketball? And they're like, oh, my mom didn't want to pay $100. And it's not that they don't have $100, but when you have a 17-year-old kid that you don't really have to pay to go anywhere, they can watch themselves. They're making that choice not to send their kids. So my goal is to keep the fees low. We may have to raise them, hopefully not a lot.
Some of these other clubs also that we've seen that charge higher fees have professional basketball courts in them. They have swimming pools and things like that that we don't have at this point. So I think there's some of that too.
Yeah, every club is different. Yeah. There's no, if you walk into our Boys and Girls Club, it's definitely different than the one in Stamford I used to work at. It's different from the one in Shelton, and every club is different in their own.
Just one follow-up, Mr. Chairman. You guys do a lot of terrific fundraising, the Pumpkins on the Pier, the dodgeball tournament. Can you just touch on some of that stuff and how much that you guys actually raise throughout the year? Because you guys do a terrific job.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, I don't want to give you the wrong number, but I just looked at the financials the other day. I think it's 30%. Special events is 24%. I think it was $161,000 is what we raised, gross, not net. And I'm going to make a plug. So next Wednesday, May 10th, we have Getaways Galore at Costa Azura. Please visit boysandgirlsclubofmilford.com to get your tickets. We have some amazing auction items that we would love to have everyone bidding on. And then some of the other fundraisers we have is Pumpkins on the Pier, which we continue to grow each year. We have our adult dodgeball tournament, which we just had. We have our 5K in August, which is the Walnut Beach 5K, where you get ice cream after. So doesn't everybody love to run when you get ice cream? And those are all. Oh, and the golf tournament that we have this year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Alderman Beatty.
Thank you. I still need clarification, and I think maybe it's me. We've had a lot of budgets to go through, but I need some clarification. Did you say 34,000 or 34%? Percent.
34,000 from the state.
From.
Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, back
it's
to the
from
state.
the state
He
of
just said
Connecticut
percent.
that we get. We're part of a Connecticut State Alliance. We're on the budget for the state as a whole. Our percentage is $34,000.
Okay.
Not
So the
percent.
34,000 coupled with the decrease, the mayor and the finance recommendation for 15,000, and you're not going to change. You're committed to not changing membership. This is all.
We're trying. We're trying very hard. I mean, I can't say if we have a hole in our
Membership dues.
budget, we're going to have to figure out how to.
And not
do it somewhere.
staff, which is commendable. So what happens to the long-term plans? And I'm sorry, it was asked already twice. What would be cut? What would be? And how great a? I'm not hearing you say what would happen if both of those expectations come through. Decreases, small enough of an operation
Yeah.
to pinpoint
I
a
guess
little
the
more
honest
for us.
The honest answer is I don't know what we would cut. I think I would just keep turning my wheels until we figured out how to raise more money some different way, because I don't see it possible. I don't know. I could never tell a little kid, sorry, you're not coming to the club because I didn't raise enough money or I didn't do my job. So
Exactly right. And one of the things we focus on is continuing to develop our own fundraising, which we do an excellent job at. We
Right, yeah.
raise a lot of money during the year because of the board members and our volunteers that we have working so hard to contribute to what we do. So we would continue doing that and push to raise additional funds. We would look at that. We certainly would not impact our manpower.
Right.
You know, that's locked in for us.
Yes.
We have numbers that we're going to maintain. So, and we do manage our program expenses very, very tightly.
I know you do. This is
Yeah.
helping.
My
helping
honest
us
answer
to
is I
see.
don't know what we would cut or how
Okay.
we would figure it out, but we would figure it out.
Thank you.
Any more questions for the Boys and Girls Club? Alderman Vecchiarelli.
When I was looking at a possible cut of $34,000 from the state, and then another $48,000 in addition for busing, and we're only giving you like, I think, what, $15,000 more. And I just want to say that, to reiterate what you were saying before, was to be able to manage this year program, you do a tremendous job finding money to do it from so many different places. I just, I don't know how you do it all, but I would like to commend you on your efforts to put together such a good program and find so much of these expenses, and while the city is giving you a fraction of that. So thank you for all the work that you do and all the fundraising that you do to make it possible for these kids. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions for the Boys and Girls Club? Seeing none, thank you, Megan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
everybody.
much for your presentation, and thank you so much for this this booklet here.
Yeah.
It's very helpful.
Seriously, read the last 8 pages. You'll
Okay.
enjoy them.
Read the last 8 pages, please, and then give us a call. Give Megan a call, give myself, either one of us a call. And the mayor's been to the club a number of times, so, and some of you have. But you should all stop by and see where your money's going. Stop by on an afternoon, any weekday after 3. That's when the children are there. That's when the place comes alive. That's when you'll hear all the laughter and see the children having a great time. So I'd like to invite you all to come when you have time. I know how busy you are, but towards the end of the day would be great to come and see the club and see what's going on there. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation. We'll see if we can take you up on that. At this point, the next budget account would be the Economic Development Commission, page 31 in your books, account number 4155.
Good evening. How are you? Here again. This
Good
comes
evening,
up very
Julie.
fast every year.
You're doing the Community Development and Economic Development Commission, correct?
Correct. Economic Development Commission only has $1. That remains the same. And the community development remains the same at $85.50, with, again, another capital outlay for a computer just to keep upgrading the equipment that we're using in the office. Other than that, everything remains the same, and I think we do quite a bit with not a lot, and we're successful. So I appreciate everyone's support in working with all of you as we try and make Milford a place to live, work, and play.
Anybody have any questions regarding community development? Alderman Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you. I remember a few months ago there was a meeting with the Connecticut Office of Tourism that came to City Hall, and you were speaking about some of the things that you've done.
The who?
The Connecticut Tourism?
Yes, yes.
And they were speaking about you were speaking about some of the things that you've done for Milford, and I'd just like to know what really came out of that, if anything has been done to help Milford.
Sure. So with that meeting came about because the budget was cut, the Connecticut budget, tourism budget was cut, and the regional tourism associations were lost. And we and Milford, with 17 miles of shoreline and a great industry for tourism, wanted to make sure that we were included in the conversation. So Randy Fiveash, the director, came and we asked him to come and say, you know, can we sit down with Milford and tell us how we can be helpful? We know that the dollars are gone, but we have people here who have a vested interest. What can we do and how do we do it? So you saw some of the meeting was focused a lot on the website and how do we take advantage of getting our information on there. A lot of the good things happened out of that. One of the next things that happened was Gary Mullen, who's the new executive director of the Chamber. Obviously, tourism industry is a business industry. We have a lot of hotels in Milford. We have access to universities that we need to keep a high occupancy rate, which we do. So what he is in the midst of developing in the next couple weeks, it'll be announced, is a tourism council at the Chamber. So all of those folks who are involved in tourism who don't have a place to be right now in Milford, other than getting my reports or whatnot, can now have a place where we can all sit down and share ideas. We then set up another meeting with Randy's assistant, Gary, to really get into the nitty-gritty and produce a list. Okay, so what are the top 5 things that we can do over the next year that will make a difference for Milford? And we developed that list. That lists include there's several websites that other people put up in Milford on the tourism site, getting them taken off and making one consolidated site so we make sure that everyone's visiting the same spot. Packaging, so there's not a lot of packaging coming out of Milford, meaning hotels, restaurants, the Arts Council put together packages and send them out to people. So get a show, 10% off dinner, check out the harbor, come off the train from New York. So we're working on getting those folks in that industry to put together more packages. There's a huge list, and I can send you the list, but there's a lot to do, but there's so much to do, and you know, only so much time, so I like to take 1 or 2 or 3 things to make my goals, tackle those and do them well, and then move on to the next. But I think this is very low-hanging fruit that we can access right away, and it'll make a big difference in tourism. And not only that, we're making much better relationships with the people who have the money, decide how to spend it, and they're calling us now saying, do you guys want to be involved in this? Is this something you can work on a panel with? So it's all about relationship building and kind of communicating. So I think it was really successful, and we're just going to keep going with tourism with all these new groups that we're developing.
It sounds excellent. Thank you.
Thanks.
Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, I'm not sure if it's in the economic or community development, but my question is Sears and J.C. Penney and Bob's and maybe some others. Does the city work like with those owners to try to help them find, because you know, they're big, and I was just wondering if maybe you could just touch bases on that with me.
Sure. So obviously they're conglomerates with a lot of folks that I obviously don't have access to the CEO, but I deal with the people where they live now. So Dan Kiley, we had a meeting immediately after JCPenney was announced. He also met with the mayor and some other folks that came down from the Post Mall. And, you know, retail is very cyclical. It's in a very different position than it ever has been in the history of, you know, the world. So it's kind of exciting for them to look and see, okay, now we have this new space that's 25,000 square feet. Normally we'd have someone come in that's an Amazon competitor, but we can't do that anymore. So where is the industry going? And the industry is going into service type businesses. So the duck bin bowlings, or places that you can go, or dinner theaters, places you can go and do things. People want to go out and spend money, but they don't want to go out and buy product. They want to buy the product from Amazon. So those are the kind of exciting new things that malls are looking to. And if you look at the trends across the country and what's happening with malls, it's really kind of invigorating and exciting. Some malls, there's one in Washington that was just like our mall, and now it's an actual center. The second floor is now completely apartments, affordable housing actually, and senior housing. Downstairs there's doctor's offices, there's a Rite Aid, there's a pharmacy. So there's so many places that malls can go instead of this kind of land that no one uses anymore. And then the concrete space, we have to look at when we look at malls and big developments is, how we use this space. Do we want to put tons of concrete around a very small development? Probably not. We want to see more green. So I think when it comes to those, yes, it's sad, I think, to look at a JCPenney and something we've all grown up with, and it's nostalgic to see them go, but it's also exciting to see what's going to take its place and how we change as consumers. So I think we'll see some kind of cool stuff, and I know Dan has some interest from several different places, and I don't know if any of you guys know him, but he is dynamic and awesome to work with, so whatever he does will be absolutely beneficial for the city.
Just one other follow-up question is, it seems as though when you order things online that you don't pay a sales tax. And, we have these brick and mortar, tax-paying buildings here that we do pay a sales tax. And it just seems, great for the consumer to not have to pay the sales tax, but it's like, how does a business compete? No sales tax is a biggie, and
some online retailers do pay.
Is the state, in conjunction with municipalities, trying to do anything to protect to get the internet so that they have to pay taxes on where states are taxing?
Yes, and it's different across the country, obviously. Some states do, some states don't. Some tax some online realtors, some don't. For instance, this is on my mind because we were just talking about them, but Airbnb. When they came in, there was no sales tax. The state worked out a negotiated deal with them that they now pay 15% hotel occupancy, just like the other hotels are. So everyone's learning how to tax in this world. And, being in Connecticut, it's a policy argument too. Do we really want to start taxing all these people on top of all the taxes we're already doing? I don't know. I mean, that's obviously a much bigger conversation we can have over a glass of wine sometime. But, it's just a very big policy, it depends.
My thought is that we could be in a $2 billion budget deficit next year. And that is going to cost the taxpayers in the state a tremendous amount of money. And so it just seems like as we slowly chisel away at our brick and mortar, because they're not able to compete with the internet, and certainly the taxes have got to be a huge a huge factor in that. You really wonder, why we're not really doing this, because
and at the Capitol, there's lobbying factions for the brick and mortars that are saying everyone needs to be taxed the same, and then there's the other faction that's saying we don't, and somewhere down the line we get an agreement that works for everybody, and we hope that that's why we're all here with all of our different opinions and our different groups, and we can find a way to get us out of this hole. It's doomy and gloomy in Connecticut right now, but hopefully this is the end of the doom and gloom, and we come back and we make a difference. I can say that in Connecticut, Milford's doing well, so we're proud of that, and we try to just keep talking about that instead of, it's a difficult position that the state is in, but eventually we'll get to the place we need to be. I absolutely believe that 100%.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Julie. Good evening. Julie, could you help me understand the theory behind and how it will help the 10 to 12 Tesla charging stations at the mall?
Well, what is the saying? If you build it, they will come. that's a negotiation, and they have a huge push right now to go green. And so Tesla is just part of what they're doing. They're reinstalling millions of dollars. They're putting a lot of money into the mall to make it green, and which again, of course, is going to make their expenses go down. So that's a portion of, that's a portion of what they're doing. Tesla's here in Milford, obviously, so I'm sure that, you know, they have a good relationship. We have a good relationship with the Tesla here. And hopefully it will increase traffic, and it will do its job and what it's meant to do. And I think he's just trying to move with be progressive.
I think it's a great idea, but the fact is it's so far removed. I mean, you have to walk farther than anything to get to the mall.
Well, that's all part of the green. We want to walk more.
You want to walk more. I wonder how, you know, with the price of the car, the thought process, the price of the car, you're getting in the car, you're leaving it for 2 hours, 3 hours to charge, and those people who have those cars, I don't know if they want to walk that far to the mall. They want more efficiency and they want more entitlement in that, I think.
It's a mindset. I mean, I think you'd be surprised if you sat down with a Tesla owner. It's not about how much the car costs. It's about what the car does to the environment. Less driving, more walking is good for the environment, and that's the mindset of a Tesla buyer.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
And they probably have a lot of money too.
Yeah,
but
right. Got to afford it first. Thanks.
It's a cool car.
Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Julie, you said Milford is doing well. Can you expand on that, and do you have some statistics what the business environment of Milford is doing?
Sure. We actually just got our market analysis back. It's in draft form right now. Hopefully we'll be in final form in the next couple of weeks. But again, it's a lot of doom and gloom because it's a local, regional, and national report. So from the top level, we're looking at a lot of uncertainty in the political environment, uncertainty in the political environment and the financial environment on both the state and the national level. So we have to look at, okay, well, but how are we doing in that area? So I'm putting together some data now, and any data that I don't specifically talk to, you can just call me and we can talk about it. There's it's so much data and so many data resources that we can look at. But our numbers for last year aren't out yet, but as you know, we had a 26% increase in business activity, it's just a huge increase. It hasn't been like that in a very long time, and I'm sure it's a lot of different things. One, through the market analysis, is we have an excellent location. I mean, you can't beat being in the middle of, you know, Hartford and Stamford and New York and Boston. One of the other good things about our location, and it's interesting, one of the startups that just started here came from New Haven, and I said to them, well, why'd you pick Milford? You know, it seems like you guys want to be with the techies and the district CT that's opening, and he's like, no, well, we don't want to be in a concrete jungle. We want to, you know, walking out, we're a creative industry, and to look at the harbor, that's pulling us here. They are pulling their friends here. So it's kind of getting the word out, and I think that's kind of getting, you know, our success lies in our location a lot too. We market well through Connecticut. We are active and engaged. I'm on the Connecticut Economic Development Association. I work with our regional association that deal with the international businesses, and we kind of work on that level as well. We had a 127% increase in construction permits, which again, it's the prior years it went from, I think, 16 million to 96 million. It was just an unbelievable increase. We're the fastest growing city in the southern part of the state. People want to come here. People want to live by the water. They like the quality of life here. In comparison to the cities around us, our mill rate is one of the lowest. So, you know, the first question everyone calls when new businesses come is, what are you going to give me to come here? That's always the first question. And it's an interesting conundrum because the legislative body will authorize various municipalities to be what they call a distressed municipality. In order to be a distressed municipality, you have to be in bad shape. We don't qualify, we're doing well. So, you know, you have to say that back to this new business. We're not a distressed municipality. We can't give you those types of incentives because we're doing so well. But what we can tell you is our mill rate is less than all the other places that you're considering right now, and significantly less than a Bridgeport and a New Haven where some of the people are looking at. So Milford is becoming a very, very attractive, viable option to people that really just didn't consider it before.
Just one quick follow-up. Do you know the occupancy rates in Milford?
Sure. So our land is 95% developed. Our commercial property is 92.7% developed. It is relatively unheard of to be under 10%. It's very rare, especially in this time. People are coming back, but we're in a good place here. Our largest, this is another policy, but our largest vacancies right now are office space, and people are working differently. So I'm sure a lot of you work from home, you don't need office spaces, and that trend is really, taking hold of the office spaces not only in Milford, but all over the country. People have a plethora of office space. So actually just recently, the Regional Economic Development Association that we're a part of, REX, reached out to us and said, New Haven's running out of office space. We're going to start sending people over to you that don't want to, have this need to be right directly in New Haven. So that's good for us. We have that to offer when the other areas start running out of office space. But that's just something that it's a sign of the times. It's not a sign of Milford. You're welcome. My foot's asleep by myself.
Any more questions regarding community development? Seeing none, we'll move on to Economic Development Commission. It's all in, basically all in one.
That's $1.
We did that.
It's all in $1. We already did.
Yeah.
All right, Julie, thank you so much for your presentation and for
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
and answering all our questions for us. Thank you for all the great work that you do for the city. I always said that to you. The next department organization on our agenda is Human Resource Department, page 41, account number 4219.
Good evening, everyone. Well, overall, my budget is flat. There was slight increases in about 4 lines. A major one was in the miscellaneous professional fees and services. We used to pay $25 for arbitration fees or grievances. The state increased that fee to $200, so we look to increase that. Our testing and evaluation line, we increased by $250. I've been trying to utilize outside vendors in terms of testing because many of the exams that we use for civil service are really dated. They're over 20 years old, so they're not really relevant. And we did purchase a testing, automated testing system for clerical positions, but sometimes we want to use tests for either wastewater positions, and so we're looking to use outside vendors that have more up-to-date and modern tests with modern terminology and so forth. And just as a capital improvement, we requested a computer, and the amount that we requested was based on the fee that MIS provided for us. And the last one was in overtime. I increased that line by $250, and that was just to account for 2 years of retro wages that were part of a collective bargaining agreement that we settled. And that employee does attend the pension board meetings once a month, so we just wanted to make sure that we had enough funds to cover that. And with that, I'm open to any questions that you may have.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Good evening.
Good evening.
It just hit when you just said a computer for $1,000, and yet we had community development come up and say their computer was $700, and you just said you got a price from MIS that says it's $1,000. Aren't we all talking about the same kind of product?
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Vitale, just because this issue covers the whole city, the actual computer is $700. That's the bid price that we get. If you need a new software, if you need to update your Office package, your Microsoft Office package, that's a $300 licensing fee that we have to pay. So I don't know what the vintage of the licensing fee or the Microsoft program that they're using, but if it's old, then that's a $300 difference, and that's where there's the $1,000.
And I can understand that, but when a computer's hardware, you're talking about hardware, software. And so if you're going to upgrade Word or whatever, Excel and all the Office data or programs, wouldn't that come from MIS rather than individually? Isn't it all, do you buy licenses for the whole city?
We do, but each individual, and Peter can better explain this, but we require that each department account for it, even though it runs through our central bid.
It doesn't need explanation. It's just, in my mind, there's hardware and there's software. So a computer's hardware, $1,000, is not the same as $700 on a piece of equipment. I'm just wondering why all the equipment is not the same. If we go through the whole budget, do we see variances in hardware? That's all. So, thank you.
Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Tanya. I know you run a health and wellness program to try to curb some of the health and wellness costs in the city. Can you just touch on that a little bit, just briefly, on how well that's going and things that you're doing?
Sure. So we did establish about 2 years ago a health and wellness committee, and it's comprised of employees throughout the various departments in the city, and we've included now members of the Board of Education. And we also have Alderman Gurman is part of the committee, and we also have local residents that are in the health and wellness field participating in the committee. And so what we try to do is we've put a couple things together, like lunch and learns, so we have our employees come and be able to learn about specific ailments or ways that they can improve their health. We did look at the data through our health administrator and saw that one of the key areas and where our insurance funds are going is towards diabetes. Many of our employees or their dependents have been diagnosed with diabetes. So one of the things that we did a 5-week educational series, and we talked about that topic from various different aspects. We had a pharmacist, we had a dietitian, we had an endocrinologist, we had a chiropractor, we had a physical therapy come and talk on the topic of diabetes based on their respective discipline. And that was very successful. We ran 2 blood drives. We ran a couple of fitness challenges. We had over 85 participants in each of them. We did after work and during lunchtime fitness classes. So employees were doing a couple of fitness, either aerobics or Tabata or yoga during their lunch breaks or after hours. And we held our 3rd health and wellness fair, and this wellness fair we had over 125 participants, so it was very successful. One of the things that we did do was we applied for an award, and it was through the Business Council of Fairfield County, but obviously people from outside Fairfield County could apply, and the city of Milford was awarded a gold award for the wellness efforts that the city was supporting, and in the 7 years that the organization has been in place, we were the first municipality to be recognized, so that was a nice thing.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Alderman Casey.
Through you, just can you give me like an idea of how the city's workforce has it over the past 5 years? Has it changed, static, gone up, gone down?
I want to say overall it's been about the same. It's just under 550, and that's including police, fire, and city side, not the Board of Education. This year, as vacancies have come up, they've kind of been held vacant a little bit longer, just so we can see, obviously given the budget and the state that we're in, just to determine whether it's prudent to fill that position or if it'd be best to try to relocate resources. But I think overall it's maintained pretty stagnant, the same, maybe reduction of 10, 15 positions that haven't been filled.
Just to follow up, you mentioned grievance fees. How many grievances does the city defend roughly in the past few years? What's the What is this, a typical
Last
amount?
year, we defended 2 that actually went to arbitration. Obviously, there are other first, second, third step that we do internally. We had 7 mediation hearings so once we go to mediation, we do pay for those. There were 5 arbitration hearings that we attended, and then aside from that, I had 4 unemployment hearings and 2 CHROs hearings as well. But I guess between arbitration, mediation, and grievances, we had 14.
Is most of that handled in-house through legal counsel? I mean, I can ask, I was just curious.
I'm sorry.
Is most of that handled in-house?
Yes, it is handled between myself and the city attorney's office.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any more questions regarding Human Resources Department? Seeing none, thank you, Tanya. Thank you for
Okay.
your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the great work.
Pension Board and Civil Service Commission, too, so.
Okay, great. All right, we'll move on to the next account with Pension and Retirement Board, page 30.
You want to do 31 first?
Account number 4145.
She's civil service.
She's Pension and Retirement right now. Any questions regarding the Pension and Retirement Commission?
Those fees haven't changed. The professional fees are for the accountant. Okay. That's the next one that I have, yes. And that the same is that we just have $200 there, and it's just in the event that we would need a recording secretary, but usually the HR generalist is the secretary, so we don't pay any fees to her, but we keep that just in the event of an emergency. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Thank you.
The next department organization on our agenda is the Human Resources Department. I'm sorry, Bridges Community Healthcare. Page 89, account number 4813. Good evening.
Good evening, Alderwomen and men. As always, we're honored to be here and thankful for your ongoing support in assisting us with fulfilling our mission and vision of Bridges Healthcare. We continue to provide, I'm sorry, I want to introduce Jennifer Fiorello, who is our Chief of Strategy and Business Operations. She oversees our fiscal department, and she's available to answer any questions about our budget. Bridges continues to provide a broad range of community-based mental health and addiction and prevention services to the residents of Milford. 80% of the individuals we serve are low income. This constitutes clients that are uninsured and those that are insured under Medicaid and Medicare. Without Bridges, many of these individuals would be shut out from the service delivery system. In fiscal year 2016, Bridges Healthcare provided approximately 54,000 hours of direct services to more than 1,100 Milford residents, including 770 children and families. Milford residents comprise approximately 55% of our active client base. Overall, when we include family members and others involved in each client's treatment, as well as Milford students involved in Bridges prevention programs, the agency impacts more than 3,500 Milford residents annually. Bridges is the only agency in our catchment area that provides wraparound services, including psychiatric evaluation, assessment, treatment, medication management, care coordination, case management, and vocational and social rehabilitation including primary care services in the past 5 years to Milford residents. Our services are truly the core of the safety net in our community, serving large numbers of adults, children, and families, a population with complex needs. We do not turn anyone away who may require a higher level of clinical care, as those services are not easily accessed in the state of Connecticut. Over the past several years, we have seen an increase in the complexity and level of illness in the families that we serve. The majority of cases require not only psychotherapy, but also intensive case management, medication management, transportation services, and care coordination involving contact with other agencies that are treating family members involved in the individual's care. In most cases, the additional care coordination and case management services are not billable or reimbursed through any resources. This year, we're thrilled to have completed 1 year of parenting and support and pregnancy prevention services programming through the Young Parents Program, which Bridges acquired last April. The integration of the Young Parents Program, or YPP, into our overall service delivery system has been successful and particularly a good fit with our other programs under our umbrella of youth and young adult outreach services. While Bridges continues to strive toward expansion of our services through new grant opportunities, we face ongoing challenges in the fiscal arena, which if you have any questions, Jennifer can briefly address. Thank you.
Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Department request is a little bit lower than what the mayor and the finance board recommend. Could you fill me in on that one?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Alderman Vecchiarelli, it is peculiar, but the reason for that is the last thing that Barbara had said, is that the Young Parent Program, the city used to give a donation through the Milford Health Department, and now because the Young Parent Program is located within Bridges, we are funneling the donation directly through Bridges instead. So if you look at the health department budget, there is approximately $20,000 less under that fund, and the $20,000 or $19,000 plus got redirected to Bridges directly.
Thank you.
Any questions regarding Bridges account? Alderman Beatty.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chairperson. Hello, and thank you for the work that you do in the community. And every interaction that I have with Bridges, I leave impressed. So, sincere thank you. But I would like Jennifer to amplify what you anticipate with the cutbacks and the hardships with the state, and what will you do to be nimble enough to survive them if they do indeed come to at the level that you anticipate.
Sure. I can speak mostly to the uncertainty with where our state budget is going to. Yes. How the state budget will fare this year. Our projected 2018 budget, we're expecting level funding, but we don't really know if it's not certain yet whether or not we're going to get a cut in our DEMIS budget, which really makes up $7.1 million of our total budget of $13 million. And that primarily operates our outpatient clinic, our adult outpatient clinic, and our intensive outpatient clinics as well. We rely heavily on the DEMIS funding and our program service fees. So should we lose funding through DEMIS, and we ultimately end up losing our ability to provide specific services that will result in reimbursement. So we lose it in both directions. Our program service fees are comprised of about $3.1 million of our $13 million budget. So it's hard to say exactly what we anticipate, but with level funding, we do project about a $200,000 deficit for next year because of our increase in our fringe benefits and personnel. Usually that's about 3%, and we're only assuming about a 1% increase given level funding in our income and our revenue. So it's possible that if we get more program service fees this year, if we're able to maintain level funding, which we've been able to achieve, we still will not offset the increase in our expenses.
So, and I'd like to add that over the past 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, Bridges has become a much more nimble organization, and so we're, every year, exercising measures to, for efficiencies and decreasing our costs. So one big example is that 2 years ago we, with much, it was quite a challenge. Our billing function was outsourced for many years, and we spent quite a bit of time, 18 months to 2 years, bringing that billing function back in-house with, possibly a $40,000 to $45,000 savings annually. So we're constantly looking at ways to, decrease our expenses, and I think we've done a fairly good job at that, and that will continue.
And another request. You mentioned it, but would you give a brief summary of the new facility for adolescents that's based in prevention, and how that fits in with the Prevention Council and the anti-drug awareness?
That's our youth and young adult drop-in center, which is here in Milford on the Post Road. And several years ago, I wrote a proposal to the Department of Children and Families and to the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services after doing research on different models of identifying youth and young adults that were sort of falling through the cracks, and not necessarily the population of, those kids that were, on the road to being seriously mentally ill, but those that were really lacking resources that could, lead them in that direction or, really change their path in life. And so that proposal was accepted, and that resulted in getting funding to open up a drop-in center here in Milford that, somewhat different than what Bridges does, not treatment or clinical services or care coordination, like some of the programs that we've talked about, but really having a really casual place for youth ages 16 to 25 to just hang out, drop in, and having skilled staff there that could identify, whether these kids were in trouble, what their needs were. But, starting off with just presenting a very open, non-clinical environment, which is, we all know that most kids that, are in treatment really have to be dragged there by their parents or, mandated by school or the court to get services. So, our goal is to identify these kids in a really, kind of, non-judgmental, non-confrontative place, and, and help them to, figure out what it is that they need and, what's going wrong in their, on their path to adulthood, essentially. So, and we've had a significant amount of success. We actually started this. It's a very new program, a very innovative program in the state. We didn't know what was going to happen. We thought, how are we going to get kids to come here? How are we going to get, the volume? It's turned out that that hasn't been a concern. We've had a fair amount of volume and kids. We've had actual parents coming in that have heard about it and have said, my child, I think they could use your program, but I don't want to force them to come. And so it's been a very positive experience, and we're expecting that program to grow in terms of just the number of youth that we can serve.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Barbara and Jen. I don't know if you did mention I know you mentioned it on the Post Road, but it's called Room 4. I don't think you mentioned
Thank you.
it. It's Room 4 opposite Gigi's on the Post Road, so it's a storefront.
Yeah.
Having said that, since acquiring or integrating YPP under the umbrella of Bridges, has it been a solvent program?
I would say that what we've discovered is that there's much more of a need for prevention services, and that the kids were located in various schools in Milford, and Jonathan Law, Foreign, Platt Tech. We do some work with the middle schools. Our coordinator of that program has been co-teaching health education classes for the past year that focus on sexual health, pregnancy prevention, safe sex. So we've been able to impact a number of youth and young adults. And so what we're finding that there's much more of a need for prevention, education services, and I think that when we acquired YPP, I think the focus was more on teens, young adults that had already that were attempting to successfully parent their children. Those numbers were lower. So, given that, we're trying to focus on what we feel, there's more of a need for in the schools.
But financially, it is a solvent program. I know the benefits of the program.
Yeah, well,
but I'm talking
actually,
financially, is it solvent?
No, we're having some difficulty and challenges with that, because since we acquired the program, our funding has been cut. And so while our development department and some of the folks that, including myself, that write grants, are reaching out to private foundations, it's still sort of touch and go in terms of what we're bringing in to cover the expenses of our of the services that we're providing. So
if you were to put a number on it, would you be able to
the deficit?
Give us a number on the deficit, please.
Yeah. As of last month, it was running at about a $20,000 deficit.
$20,000 deficit, and there was an increase in your budget as 19.6 that was supposed to cover the program. So that program, if I understand it, is costing almost $50,000?
It's costing more than that, because we have the personnel costs associated with it. We have the full-time coordinator.
But at least $50,000, not only the 19.6 that was increased in your budget, but you're saying that there's another 50,000 plus deficit.
Right.
Thank you.
Alderman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You were talking about some of the youth programs you have. I seem to recall a few years back, Bridges administered a mentoring program. I think it was called Generations, something like that.
Right. It was called
Across Generations.
Across ages.
Yeah, across
actually.
ages.
Yes.
My
so
recollection.
we lost our funding for that.
You lost your funding. Okay, so that came elsewhere, because I I know from personal experience and my neighbors what a wonderful program that was, how beneficial it was for some of the young men and women that were involved in it, enrolled in it. And it was all volunteers, I believe, working through from the community. Is there anything within your organization that addresses some of those same needs today, or is there any plans to maybe bring a program like that back in the foreseeable future?
Right. Well, that's a really good question. I think, and so when I say we lost our funding, it wasn't based on performance or whatever. It was based on what nonprofits, why a lot of nonprofits lose their funding. So I think what we're trying to recreate at Bridges, especially under our umbrella of services that are known as our youth and young adult outreach services, we're sort of trying to kind of recreate that with the funding that we have that, goes toward that population. While it can't look exactly like what we were providing, matching mentors with the young adults, in many ways the program that we just mentioned, Room 4, we have another program called Connecticut Strong that's funded by the Department of Children and Families and DEMIS, that provides some of those services. So where we can, we try to recreate that, even though we don't have the specific funding for it.
Any more questions regarding Bridges? Seeing none. Are you also taking care of the regional mental health board?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, unfortunately at this point we do not have an assigned representatives for Milford. We still participate in the regional mental health.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Jennifer and Barbara.
Thank you.
And thank you for answering all our questions for us. The next department organization on our agenda is Council on Aging, page 87, account number 4801.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Janice Jackson, Executive Director of the Milford Senior Center. With me tonight is Mary Ellen Hirama, a bookkeeper. A copy of our May Bulletin and our services and programs is being passed to you. I would like to give you some background information and statistics regarding the Senior Center. Approximately 3,000 members have participated in a wide variety of activities, such as foreign language classes, computer classes, many different exercise classes, lectures, chorals, concerts. We also have a continental breakfast, Meals on Wheels, a midi lunch program. The Errands program is designed for members with cognitive impairments who need a supervised environment. This program offers the caregiver several hours of respite time. The Milford Food Bank is located in the Senior Center and assists anyone in Milford who is in need of food. Members who do not drive are transported by one of our 7 drivers in the following vehicles. We have 2 7-passenger vans, a sedan, 4 14-passenger buses, 2 Meals on Wheels vehicles, 1 food bank van, and that's a total of 10 vehicles. Between July 1st, 2015 to June 30th, 2016, the Senior Center provided approximately 23,244 rides to seniors and disabled clients living in Milford. Our insurance specialists provided 2,838 units of service. Last year we served 31,500 meals in our mini lunch program. That's an increase of 12% over last year's figure. 5,048 seniors attended special events. That is an increase of 25% from last year. 2,774 recipients received assistance from the Milford Food Bank. That is an increase of 26% over last year. Participation in senior center classes was approximately 39,525 seniors. That is an increase of 31% from last year. 11,438 meals were delivered to homebound elderly and disabled clients living in Milford. That is an increase of 35% over last year. 8,962 seniors participated in our Continental Breakfast Program. That is an increase of 75% over last year's figure. The average age of our membership is 75. The senior center employs 42 people. 5 are full-time, 29 are part-time. We also have 8 teachers. Our request is 0.81% or $10,999. We thank you very much for your support of our seniors in Milford. Are there any questions concerning our programs or services?
Alderman Shaw.
Thank you. Aside from this, what is your total budget for operating the senior center? Do you have that?
We get from the city of Milford.
But you also take in rather small dues, memberships, and that?
Yes, yes. Our membership dues are $15 a year. We also apply for a United Way grant. That's last year we received $26,500. This year we received notice that we're going to be receiving $25,000. And also we apply for community development block grant funds. And last year we received $10,225. $10,225. Also, we ask for donations in our classes and receive approximately $7,500. And back in, I think it's Frank, you asked last year about the dues and when they went up and so forth. 2014, we increased it from $10 a year to $15, and that was an increase of $9,000. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. And thank you, ladies. You guys do a terrific job over there. It sounds like you guys have a lot of increases, a lot of your programs and attendances and meals, and yet you have the same budget. Are you able to keep up with all those increases with the same budget?
Yes. We have a full-time driver that has recently retired, and we're going to be replacing that person with 2 part-time people. That will save, on benefits. We're always looking for ways to reduce cost.
Terrific. Thank you.
Alderman Beatty.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairperson. Good evening, and thank you for all the work that you do for the community and at the center. I have a question about the Meals on Wheels. The participation is up 35%. So can you just tell us how you're protected from any anticipated cuts at the regional and national level, because it varies how those programs are funded. So you're not worried about that. Would you share that with us?
Yes, I was talking to our Meals on Wheels coordinator today, and they have had a waiting list, but she said they're now opening it up, and more people from the waiting lists are able to start receiving Meals on Wheels.
And?
In Milford.
And the 30, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Alderman Bevan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I have a question on transportation. For the longest time, I believe that you've been down 1 or 2 vehicles. Is that still true?
We need a van, yes, and that's going to be discussed again at the next board meeting on May 8th, but we are gathering information about to hopefully purchase another van.
Thank you, and at this time, I'd like to put out a public announcement that if there's any car dealerships in the fine city of Milford that would like to give the Council on Aging a deal on a van, please give them a call. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Shaw.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry to be back at you. I want to follow up with something that Alderman Beatty just asked. You have a wait list for Meals on Wheels, people that require or desire that service. Can you tell me a little bit more? I mean, how long the wait list is and what it would take to make, to bring that list to closure, to bring more people forward?
Well, we don't have the wait list. The coordinator was telling me today that it is handled through LifeBridge in New Haven, and they are the organization that has received cuts from the state of Connecticut. And she said that she was recently notified that they are putting more people on from the wait list.
Any more questions regarding Council on Aging? Alderman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Janice, Mary Ellen. Thank you again for all the, I don't know how, you've been acting director and director, Janice, for over 20 years now, coming on, something like that. It's been a long while, I know.
Yes, I was,
Yeah.
Yes.
You didn't mention how membership and the various programs at the Milford Senior Center are always expanding. I know when I was on the Council on Aging, it was always that conundrum about advertising and growing our services to the community, which we wanted to do, and yet trying to manage within the fiscal constraints and the physical constraints. In fact, the building committee, when we did the last edition, was got to be more than 10 years ago now. How do you foresee the coming years in terms of just capacity to have all the different programs you have and in increasing membership? Is there any concerns about needing further space, or just in terms of infrastructure, in terms of room in the building?
Yes, well, it is a challenge, at times to move people around in different rooms and so forth. Recently, the United Way of Milford wanted to meet, have their meetings here at the Senior Center and also meet with another partner agency. And it was set up on a day when we had AARP income tax assistance, which is a busy time. They're here on, in Milford on Tuesday and Thursday. And we just couldn't accommodate them in our conference room. So we had to move them into, a multi-purpose room, which was okay, with the United Way panel members. But it is a challenge at times, to move groups of people into other areas.
Are you sometimes able to coordinate with other city departments or the school district maybe to take some of the, just in terms of space, in terms of facilities? I mean, I know some of these things are off-site anyway, but I've noticed that a few times recently I've been at the Senior Center, it is crowded sometimes, and I mean, it was a much smaller venue not that long ago, and yet it seems to constantly fill up to, do you work with any other of the other city departments in terms of having some of these activities and events off-site, so you're doing them somewhere other than the Senior Center?
We haven't had to do that. Sometimes we get requests from other departments and other organizations to have meetings at the Senior Center. Yes. We have a very nice, as you know, a conference room on the second floor, and a lot of groups want to use that room. And also our dining room, we get requests from organizations wanting to use the dining room and the kitchen facilities.
If I might, Mr. Chair, just real quickly, Jay, where does Milford Senior Center stand? We're one of the largest memberships, if not the largest, it used to be in the state, at least in the top 3. And it's not necessarily proportionate to our population. Milford Senior Center is like one of the leaders in the state in terms of providing the services that you do. Am I correct in that? Is that still the case?
Yes, we have a very large variety of services and programs and activities. And many senior centers charge for classes. We don't. We do ask a donation. But yes, we do. We're a very active senior center.
Thank you very much. Thanks for everything you do.
Thank you.
Any more questions regarding the seniors? Council on Aging? Seeing none, thank you very much, Janice. Thank you for the good work you and Mary Ann do for the city of Milford and the seniors. Our next department is going to be the Historic District number 2, page 91, account number 4820. No. Good evening, Mr. Paulson.
Good evening. How are you? And thank you for this hearing. I'm visiting you because this is my first year as the chair of Historic District Commission number 2, with thanks to Carol Smith, who served from the inception of the commission until this year, and she's still serving on the commission, and we're delighted to have her. We spend money in 2 ways. The first is to advertise when there are going to be hearings for applications for certificates of appropriateness. And the second is to pay our recording secretary, who is Diane Candido, who's excellent, and whenever she can't make it, which occasionally happens, we have other excellent folks who fill in. Kathy Kennedy is one of them, and Colleen Burney's name comes to mind. And that is pretty much the expense, and you can see that our line is $650. We're not asking for more than that. I don't know if I need to say anything more. I'll ask you if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Paulson. Is there any questions? Mr. Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening.
Good evening.
You had indicated that you advertise. Does it cost money?
Yes.
Oh, and yet we have only $650 for secretarial fees. Where's the money?
Well, we charge neighbors who apply $75, which we figured is close to cost. Sometimes it runs a little over, sometimes it's a little under, but we're able to maintain with that. We don't want to go beyond that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Yeah.
Any more questions regarding Alderman Bevan?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chairman. Can you tell me where Historic District number 2, its boundaries are?
Yes, we
please?
are south of the Green. We run approximately from High Street over to Lafayette for until you get to about Rogers Avenue. I believe it includes the Mary Taylor Methodist Church, so it juts out a little bit, but that's it. And so we alternatively call ourselves the South of the Green Historic District. Thank you.
Alderman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Art.
Hi, how are you?
Wondered if you can outline for us the role of the Historic District Commissions relative to the maintenance of historic trees. It is an issue, trees.
Oh, yes.
It is an issue that I know is of a great deal of concern to Milford residents in general, and particularly the trees that are within a historic district. So how does a HDC get involved vis-a-vis the city and the utility companies?
Actually, Alderman, I think the answer to that is we involve ourselves by some form of aggrandizement, because we have no formal role, but we do have an interest in and some responsibility for streetscape in the historic district. And so we have worked to modify plans on trees, and we've received a good deal of cooperation from Mr. Saley and others who, while we don't have formal authority, we communicate with neighbors on their preferences when tree issues come up, and communicate that and get, we're pleased with the city's response on the whole.
Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
Thanks to Carol Smith for her long service, and
Yes.
welcome aboard to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions regarding the historic district?
I do.
Alderman Beatty.
To amplify the question, I think, if I may. So what is your coordination with others? So for tree cutting in areas that are not historic districts, do you hear about that?
When we've seen that there are trees potentially to come down, or when neighbors are objecting to what they think the plan is, we look into it and negotiate, not out of a position of power, but we negotiate to attempt to, when necessary, modify the plan. And so far, our cooperation's been good because we actually do not have a stick to hold in that process.
Thank you, Art.
Any more questions regarding Historic District? Thank you, Mr. Paulson.
Thank you
for answering all our questions. The next account is the Fire Department. Account number 4320, page 51.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Chief Doug Ito. Tonight I have Assistant Chief Gary Baker, Assistant Chief of Operations, Battalion Chief Dan Wasmer, Financial Chief, and Battalion Chief Anthony Fabrizi is the Logistics Chief. So we all spend the money collectively. Sitting out there listening to Alderman Vaccarelli talk about, the looming deficit in the state and trickling down to the city. We understand that. We do our part. Even when Julie's speaking earlier, too, about how wonderful Milford is, it seems like, and all the department heads do a great job. The board here, everybody for the city does such a great job, and we almost feel like we're getting punished for it. It's just kind of funny. It's not funny, but it's just a reality of, we're all doing such a good job for the city of Milford, and we're getting cut. So, and quickly before we start, last year Alderman Vitale asked, and was the last question of the chiefs. He says, "Chiefs, can you deal with this budget? Is this sufficient for you? Is it enough?" And we said, "Of course it is." And to date, I can tell you it is. Maybe the middle of June, we might run out, but I think we'll do it. The thing about us, we're all chiefs here, but we're still firefighters deep inside, and you can't take that away from us. And we like the challenges. We like to fix stuff. We like to make stuff. We like to say, we can do it. And you could say, no, you can't do it. And we say, no, I'll do it. I'll show you I can do it. And we do that with the budget. Essentially, the last 4 or 5 years I've been chief here, our budget's been flat. It's not to say that we don't come in with, 850 plus additional money when we go into the mayor's office over there, but it always comes out pretty close to being flat. Again, we were asked this year to be flat. We are. I think in overall you'll see from last year's budget to this year, it's a total increase of $74,000. Having said that, if there are any questions, we'll try to answer them for you. Related to this, well, in fact, all the budgets, they're all flat. The ones that we present tonight are essentially all the same.
Thank you, Chief Ito. Anyone have any questions regarding the fire department? Alderman Gurman, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the chiefs and Dan and John. Great job, by the way. You guys do a terrific job. I'm looking at how many firefighters we have on the books here. We have 76 firefighters and 16 lieutenants and 6 captains and 6 battalion chiefs. How many of those are, if any, are unfilled at any one point that aren't funded but not filled?
So in my tenure, this tonight will be the first time I could tell you that we have 4 recruits up in the academy that started in February up in Hartford. They graduate May 24th, and when they return, we will be at full staff. And first time I could think of in 5 years now. Having said that, that's, May, and in June, July, somebody may announce a retirement, but we will be fully staffed.
Any more questions regarding Alderman Vitale?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to the chief. I know having said all that about can you do it, and you can make it. What happens if we get cut all this from ECS and the mayor says, you've got a few more budgets to present to us, and it's like 2 or 3 or 5% less? How do you deal with that? Do you have any idea?
So it is an 11.3 mil budget, and quite honestly, with just the contractual stuff, and as you'll see, the regular wages is 8 mil. That takes up the majority of it. The other little pieces within the budget, for example, buying uniforms or buying the turnout gear, helmets, gloves, the stuff that we need, it's 11 million. So I only have 300,000. I could get rid of that, and that might suffice 2-3%, but we won't be able to fix stuff. Won't be able to buy some stuff.
Would be the worst case scenario if the budget cut stays at 11, whatever, 10 something, and we know it's probably not going to. We don't know anything. I don't know anything, but it may not stay at that, but it's going to be something. It's not going to be nothing. So whether all the departments take an additional hit, or got to tighten the belt or sharpen the pencil, something's going to obviously happen within the next month or so. Not unless the mayor has any ideas that what the state is doing at this point, I don't know. Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Alderman Vitale, the news is more doom and gloom. On Monday, Peter and I went up and had a meeting with the Senate Majority Leader. We've been going up to Hartford pretty regularly to get updates. We will have to put together a budget by the middle to the end of May. We have to get the tax bills out by June 1st. So the plan is that we're going to present an alternative budget using the best information that we have. All 169 towns in the state of Connecticut are in the exact same position. We will present that budget and adopt it based on the best information that we have. There are going to be reductions because while we don't know the exact amount that the state will cut us, we do assume that it's going to be something relatively significant. So there will be some recommendations to this board over the course of the next several meetings that we have during this budget deliberations. We are looking for the most information possible. We are in daily, if not almost hourly, contact with folks from Hartford, both from our own delegation as well as folks in the budget writing and budget process. So we will be communicating that with additional information. We're working with all of the different departments, with the Board of Education on budget alternatives, and we will put together a budget come hell or high water.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any more questions concerning the fire department? Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one more question. What is this number of staff on the fire department? Is that under contractual agreement, that number of staff, or is there?
The staffing itself, yeah, that's contractual. That's the number of firefighters that are.
So if we had to eliminate a couple positions that may not be filled, could that be done or no?
Not without laying anybody off and having vacancies that would not.
Contractually, you don't have to have all those people. That's my question.
You have to have them.
You have to have them.
Yes. Yeah. Well, right. Except for the clerical staff, the three clerks. I have one maintenance man, a seasonal temp maintenance man, and actually in the seasonal temp side, we pay the per diem dispatchers out of our budget at the police department.
Thank you.
Any more questions regarding the fire department? Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Chief Ito. Good evening. My question is in regards to grants. Obviously, with the state in a disarray financially, is this going to limit your ability to go out and apply for grants? Is there going to be less grants available?
Well, correct, there would be. We still would apply, certainly do apply each year for grants, and mostly for equipment. There is the SAFER grant out there, but we've always been leery about that because you'll get the assistance to hire staffing, but then in a number of years you have to take it over, and so we just never entertained that. And yeah, most of the grants are federal grants, and the emergency management has a grant, an in-kind grant. But we will continue to still, again, since day one, since I've been here, and the mayor's been here, and he's, he always says, look out, outside the box, and we've been doing it. We've been doing it daily.
So we'll still be able to take advantage of grants if they're available, and hopefully use them to purchase equipment or update equipment?
Absolutely. Also, fixing up the building on Siemens Lane, we're applying for grants for that right now.
Just to follow up, Mr. Chairman, in regards to the fleet and the engines, are we in a good position? I know that we've recently purchased a Quint, so is it safe to say that, I don't know, were our plans being delayed to go out and purchase more equipment at this time, or do you feel that we have a sufficient amount of newer equipment?
We just received a new engine, so one of our first line pieces that's in operation now will become a spare, so we'll use that. And that would eliminate one of the other ones. Having said that, there are a couple of the first line trucks that still have some rust. I'm not going to say they're going to fall apart in one year. We were not told not to do any in our capital plan, which we just got. We are going to put in for an engine and an ambulance. So we're still going forward as is until we hear otherwise. But so to answer your question, we can make it. We are with the apparatus that we have currently. We just received a new ambulance and a new engine. The new engine will be in service in 2 weeks.
So maybe I'd just like to pose this question. Worst case scenario, if things come back and they're worse than we expected, probably the first thing that would be taken off the list would be the ability to go out and buy the new engine and the ambulance. That would be put on hold?
That would be first off the list, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Chief Ito, I just noticed this particular year, the electricity account number 4442, $115,000. It's obviously higher than previous years. Is there any reason that you know offhand that was considerably higher than years past?
Well, from the 110 to 115 is $5,000, and it's just it's an estimate, a guess at a percentage increase that that it would go up. The gas, I believe, if you see that, also I say gas, petroleum, but propellants, we went up a little bit too, but that depends every year on the bids. Some years it's cheaper, and that we obviously don't use all that, but.
I guess I was looking forward to, we closed two firehouses. I guess I was looking forward to a savings of 2 less buildings, but I'm not seeing it. I just wanted to know what.
Yeah, you're correct, absolutely, and we've had that discussion before. And then closing those 2 houses and combining the one really didn't save much like we thought it would in the utilities.
Mr. Chairman, one other consideration is that about 1.5 years ago, the Siemens Lane facility, the city started to pay for the utility costs there. Up until about 1.5 years ago, the Army paid for those utility costs, and we assumed them relatively recently.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Might be a good candidate for solar panels. Alderman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, we're well into this new era in Milford where we're involved with the paramedic services in this city, where we used to have AMS, and now we have really primary paramedic offices in this country or in this city are with the Milford Fire Department. You're the primary supplier of paramedical services in the city of Milford. How has that affected your staffing? Obviously, you're talking about coming in with a flat budget every year. Is it offset because we're collecting fees now? How's it working, and what's its effect on your department?
Well, the hope is that, yes, AMR was the provider for the ambulance service in the city of Milford. And through Senator Salzberg, who changed or spearheaded change in the PSR for the control of that, which absolutely helped. We never realized or never thought that a commercial entity should govern any part of the cities. So that was great legislation that we actually went up to Hartford and won that case so that we can provide that service, a better response time, so that also we can generate some revenue for the city as opposed to just a commercial entity. It's first step. We just started. We won that case, I'd just call it, in October of 16. We partnered up with a new commercial ambulance that we provided a contract that we can work with together and also benefits the city. And just to start, yes, we are doing the ALS portion, the paramedic portion, and they're doing the BLS aspect of the ambulance work for the city of Milford. As far as the staffing, we have the same amount of people working every day. There's no additional staffing that required it, but we put on, starting in July, we're putting on a truck full-time, another ambulance. Future, maybe 3, maybe 4. That's long-term down the road. And Chief Wasner is our EMS officer. Do you have anything to add? Okay.
Thank you.
Good answer.
Alderman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief Ito, I see you're sporting the clean look tonight. And Chiefs, I want to circle back to the discussion about dispatchers. Of the 8, including the supervisor, how many of those do you own?
Well, we don't own any dispatchers. The police department took them a couple years ago, but we have the per diems, the ones that are fill-in, substitutes, part-time, and we have them in our budget that comes out of the seasonal temp.
Thank you very much.
Alderman Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Following up on something that Alderman Smith was saying about taking over more of the EMS duties, paramedic duties, I noticed one of the biggest changes in the budget from what you requested to what made it through the Board of Finance were first aid supplies, EMS supplies, and some overtime as well. Can you speak on how you're going to adjust to that?
You want to talk on that? I'll start up.
The supplies or
yeah,
both. Personnel costs?
Yeah, do the whole thing.
So the first part of that, the supplies, we did ask for an increase in the supply budget because the increase in the transportation service is just more consumables, I guess we should say. So we actually do get supplemented by Milford Hospital with some of the consumables, which we've vetted out quite well. It's ethical and okay to do. But the paramedic supplies that we use have gone up dramatically. As far as the personnel cost, what Chief Ito was mentioning before was that we were able to put on the second medic truck using the additional personnel that we have, utilizing the detail personnel that we used to have, so that we anticipate there might be a little bit of an overtime increase. And by overtime, we just mean vacation and relief, which is different than overtime. So it's backfilling a position if someone takes a contractual vacation day or sick day. I think that answers the question.
It does, thank you.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. To the chief, again, it never ceases to amaze me that if a department is in control of IT, that a list of is not given to each of the other departments saying what the prices of computers are, what the prices of printers are, and you say, I want one or two at this particular point or at this price. Your capital outlay item or line item 49770190 is that you requested a computer for $12,800. It was cut to $600. Is that 3 computers? Is that 1 computer? Again, it's not consistent pricing. It's not your fault or whatever, but the fact remains that, you know, if it has nothing to do with software, so it coming down from MIS or whomever that might be, giving a list of items on a list, giving it during budget time to all of the departments saying, look, this is the pricing, this is the state bidding, that this is what the computer is going to cost us, this is what a printer is going to cost us. So we should see a consistent pricing in all of the budgets as to what a printer and what a computer is costing. So again, it's a hypothetical question. It's one that needs to be reckoned because of the fact we see, I'm looking at these numbers being all over the place. So we went from 700 to 1,000 to 12,800, et cetera, and then it's down to 6. So if a computer costs the city $700, so be it. And then we should see that consistent across the board in all budgets. But thank you.
Alderman Bevan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Peter, Finance. On page 53, item number 49420254, life packs. Is that a typo in last year's budget of 4,000, which it should be 40,000?
I can answer that. Yeah, you want me to answer that? Because I do remember now last year. It was, I don't want to say switch and bait. It was just, we moved the money from one account to the other to buy the life pack. The life pack is $40,000. So I believe it was last year we took to $36,000 from one account, dropped it down to that, added it to the $4,000 that is in that account for $40,000 to buy a life pack.
Thank you very much.
Like the AEDs that are out in the vestibule.
Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, can you direct me to the line item that reflects, I believe that we use Nelson, is that the name of the company for a backup transporter? Is there a line item in your budget that reflects the money that we spend with Nelson?
No, we have a contract with them, but we don't pay them anything.
But we have a contract.
We have a contract with them to provide 2 ambulances in the city of Milford 24/7.
Okay, and that's in case our ambulances are out and there's another call.
Correct.
Okay, so just to follow up, my question is, if we get a 3rd ambulance that you mentioned, at some point, will the city be independent and not need a backup if we have enough personnel and enough ambulances on staff?
Hopefully Nelson's not watching Channel 79 right now. Down the road, that would be an ultimate goal, yes. We can have 4 on duty, we can do it all. You still need a backup, though. You still need that what? Mass casualties, right? The school bus accidents, you just need multiple ambulances.
So if we get to 3 or even 4 ambulances at some point, we're still going to have a need for a contract for a backup? Or
Not
no?
a contract, but a mutual aid agreements with commercial providers in the area, such as them. They're right in Stratford Fire Department. We have mutual agreements with all the surrounding fire departments right now for EMS and for firefighting. So it would still be in place, but we would have that also a mutual agreement with a commercial provider.
Okay. I guess my question is, I just want to get a dollar amount for what we're spending on Nelson, what that contract represents, the cost to the city. I don't know if anyone has that information.
Mr. Chairman, through you, to Alderman Giannatasio, Nelson bills directly, the patients directly, and they handle the BLS calls, the less significant calls, not the advanced life support calls. Our fire trucks, our rescue trucks handle priority 1 calls, advanced life support. Usually those also have a higher billing associated with those. Nelson, they're the primary for our BLS calls, and they bill the patients directly. If there is a situation where the city of Milford does do advanced life support, one of our paramedics triages or cares for a patient, and then Nelson transports them to a hospital. So it's both an ALS call and a BLS call. At that point, there is a bundle billing agreement that's contained in the contract, and so Nelson will bill for the entire amount, and the city will then receive a portion of that entire bill from Nelson.
Okay, so again, I understand clearly. So Nelson, it doesn't cost the city any money for Nelson to be our primary backup. They're just there, and if there's another call and we can't respond, then they're going to take that call and they're going to bill that person directly. Okay, thank you.
Anyone, Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief Ito, you kind of touched on sharing of services. What's being done for regional sharing of services to our neighbors to the north and south? Is there much that can be done as far as sharing services?
As far as joining teams together, or
yeah, everybody's in the same crunch of budget crunch. Is there a way to share certain things to lower some costs?
Yeah, I'm sure they're all doing the same process as we are right now, but they call right now, and we send whatever they need to Stratford, West Haven. To just that's true too. That hazmat is the only regional team that we have at this point. Milford, Stratford, Fairfield, Bridgeport has some, and Westport. It's a regional hazmat team. We don't get called out on big incidences.
Thank you.
It is something to look at. It is something to look at with dive teams. Those kind of specialty groups.
Is there any more questions regarding the fire department? Seeing none, we're going to move on to account number 4360, lights, hydrants, and water, page 62.
Again, like I say every year for these, it's just paying the bills. There's a little increase in the water charges. I'm sure that it might be just an estimate of, we actually spent a little more the previous year, so it might just fill in, and it's just whatever the charges are, could be a little bit more. We did find that, and I believe, again, I think it was Alderman Vitale, I think you asked for the fire hydrants last year. The number was 1415, but my recent numbers I got from the water company was 1455 now, so we gained 40 some. Maybe the water made them grow, but we got 40 more.
Mr. Chair.
Alderman Vitale.
Just to follow up, it says here street lighting. You know how many street lights we have? You have all those statistics in front of you.
Mr. Chairman, through you to Alderman Vitale, there's a little over 4,000 street lights in Milford. That does not include the Borough of Woodmont, who pays for and maintains their own street lights.
Thank you. Interesting.
You're a busy little questionnaire there, Mr. Gurman. Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question on that street lighting. We have on the budget here for the balance of 2016 was 248, which is typically half the lighting budget, which would lead me to believe that it should be around 500,000 and not 790. Is there a reason for that?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Alderman Gurman, the primary reason is that was a snapshot as of December 5th, so it was further back in time as from today. I would imagine that as of now and definitely by June 30th, it will be much more than that.
And just a quick follow-up, is that audited or anything? How do we confirm that that number is, because that's a big number every year. And I know we negotiated that once or twice in the past.
This is the direct billing cost. These are the street lights that UI owns, either through the Light the Night program or another program, and we pay the electricity cost as well as the rental cost for the actual physical lights. It may be a situation where we have to fund the cost of the rental and the electricity cost during the first half of the year, and that's why that figure is higher as of the December 2016 snapshot. We can get you the exact reason why there's only $248,000 left over for the second half of the fiscal year.
Thank you.
Any more questions regarding lights, hydrants, and water? Seeing none, we'll move on to account number 4331, Emergency Management, page 58.
This budget stayed identical to last year.
Alderman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I wondered if you can give us a brief narrative of the capital outlays 4944, the early warning system, and special equipment line items, Chief Ito.
Well, we have the early warning system. We have the sirens that are that we sound off on the shoreline, and that's for that equipment and maintenance. In fact, we did have a motor vehicle accident once where it hit that pole with that in Bayview areas. It hit the pole with that light that siren on it, that device, and we had to replace that.
And in terms of the special equipment line,
what did you say? Yeah, the flood gauges are also in there too. There's a service contract for that. Is it? I'm sorry. What else? I'm sorry. What else did you say?
the other line item, 0249, special equipment. What does that cover?
Yeah, that is, yeah, it's part of the flood gauges. What else do we use?
Oh, no,
with that?
we use that for like purchasing any of the regional stuff that we use for collapse rescue and things like that.
Oh, specialty equipment. It's specialty equipment for the region. It's for the region.
Thank you very much.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Chief, did I hear that you, through the early warning system, you said the sirens, somebody hit the pole, and we have to pay for it? Doesn't the insurance company pay for that, their insurance?
Well, yeah.
Misunderstood.
I'm sure they did, yes. There's some stuff that we probably have to pay or that siren. But
okay, because usually insurance companies do pay.
Yes, they would.
Thank you.
Any more questions regarding emergency management? Seeing none, we'll move on to, excuse me, account number 4805, CMed, page 88.
Again, that's the medical side. I can have Dan speak on that. That's the coordinated medical emergency direction. That's the patches that are to the hospital that our medics use to speak to the hospitals for medical direction and narcotics, drugs that we would administer on the field.
Alderman Anderson.
And I'm familiar with the fact that CMed went through a period of breakup, I guess, and they're now reconfigured. I wondered how the relationships have worked out with Milford and the surrounding towns working together under the new format.
Well, I'll do part of it.
So the CMed we were originally involved with in South Central CMed, the New Haven CMed, was dissolved as the entity that it was. It's now MedCom, which is actually run by AMR, the former ambulance company. Anecdotally, from other departments still using that MedCom system, it's not very successful. We kind of saw that. These guys were pretty wise in the sense that they saw that that was going to form that way, so we actually seceded and went to Southwest CMed. So we're actually running out of Bridgeport now, which is actually super advantageous to us because the Nelson ambulance that we're working with now is heavily involved in Fairfield County. And the Bridgeport CMed system was kind of just keeping up more with technology. So their ability to coordinate EMS assets far surpasses anything that MedCom has right now. So we're really happy with this system, and I believe it's actually cheaper for us.
Thank you, Chief Wassmer. Chief, did you want to add anything to that?
There are some communities to the east of us that may jump ship, per se, and join the Southwest. So having said that, that would be best for us too, because then these charges would go down because we'd be sharing with another one or two communities.
Yeah, and is it fair to say that under the current configuration, there's been a net savings to Milford taxpayers?
Yes, there might be a slight increase operational maybe from last. There's some new equipment that we joined in and had to pay with the other communities. And in fact, some of it is right here in Milford at Eels Hill.
Thanks very much.
Any more questions regarding CMed? Seeing none. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you all.
Chief Gary, Chief John, Chief Anthony. Great job with answering questions, and thank you very much for the great job you do for the city of Milford.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda, next account would be the Historic District Commission. Page 9, no we didn't. Page 92. I don't see anybody in the audience for that, Mr. Mayor.
No, but it's similar to Historic District number 2 in terms of the vast majority of the funding goes towards secretarial fees.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next department organization on our agenda is Milford Progress, account number 4819, page 91. Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the mayor, I guess, because somebody from Milford Progress is not here. They were granted, a couple of years ago, we put $1 in that account because we didn't see where it was going. Last year, they were budgeted for $10,000. They didn't spend anything. And then, as I see it, and projected $10,000, another $10,000 this year. What is in that kitty? Years ago, when we cut it back to 1, I think, if my memory serves me correctly, there was like $60,000 in that kitty that they were working on long-term projects. What are some of the projects they're working on? And they haven't spent anything, and they want another 10. And the other question is, how much is in that kitty?
I'll get you the exact figures, Alderman Vitale, but it is a pretty active group still. They 2 years ago, if you remember, there's a presentation. They used a big chunk of money, approximately $60,000. I think they identified, which was the vast majority of their overall funds, to pay for the wayfinding sign project. As of June 1st, there's going to be additional signs that will be installed. Another project that they are undergoing right now They are helping to fund the kiosks. They're working with the Milford Arts Center and helping to fund the kiosks. And I'll get some of the other expenses that they've had in the last 2 years, as well as some of the account balances for you.
We need
before
a fund balance as of what they have this year so that we can work from there. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Anderson.
In response to Alderman Vitale's question, I can respond that I'm aware of the fact that they're in the throes of reorganization. If you remember, a lot of us on this board were concerned about the fact that the bylaws and the number of membership did not jive, and they needed to come into compliance and have bylaws or membership that reflected the number that was outlined in the bylaws and be true to the mission that was established by this board, which is to provide economic development oversight for the downtown and throughout the city. And recently, through the ordinance committee process and vote by this full board, we, if you recall, a few months ago, we recognized MPI to have a mission for the entire city. So, and not just downtown. So the feedback that I've gotten from the Economic Development Director and others recently is they're in the throes of the reorganization. They will be in compliance with their bylaws and be doing a mission citywide, and they're looking for additional grants beyond the $10,000 subsidy provided by the city.
Mr. Chair, just to Alderman Anderson's point, exactly, and I appreciate that and do remember all of that, and all the more reason why somebody should be here, really either justifying or helping us understand what's going on. That would be my point. Thank you.
And to Alderman Anderson's point, they were de-designated as the official downtown development agency, just so they would not have those restrictions, so that they would only be focused on the downtown, so they would have a more citywide focus. And that's what this board addressed several months ago.
Alderman Shaw.
Yeah, I don't want to take up too much time with this, but I want to get back to the bylaws. The last time I left a meeting with MPI, they were still being, and maybe you have them or somebody else, but could we get those bylaws? I think we've been asking, and now that with the reorganization, if you're going to contact them.
I'll see what information I can get from a balance standpoint as well as an organizational standpoint.
Any more questions regarding Milford Progress? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next account, which would be the Public Debt Service, page 78, account number 4503. Anyone have any questions regarding the Public Debt Service? Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. My question, I guess, goes to Peter. The sewer bond principal and interest for a total of roughly $4.5 million. Why is that not with the sewer budget?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Alderman Gurman, there is a component, it's basically the sewer debt. There is a component in the sewer fund that covers the loans that were used to fund the upgrades to the 2 wastewater treatment plants. And so we split the clean water fund debt between Fund 10 and Fund 12. But historically, the general fund has paid for the public improvements and sewer debt, as these are funded by general obligation bonds of the city of Milford.
Okay, thank you. Just makes it a little more confusing. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, for answering that question. Does anybody else have any questions regarding the public debt service? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next account. Next department would be the employee benefits, page 84, account number 4710. Anyone having any questions regarding the employee benefits? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next department organization on our agenda, which be the insurance and bonds, page 85, account number 4720. Anyone having any questions concerning insurance and bonds? Seeing none, we'll close under that and move under the next department organization on our agenda, which would be the claims and refunds, account number 4740, page 85. Anyone have any questions regarding claims and refunds? Seeing none, we'll close under that account and open up. The next account would be the benefit and salary reserve, page 40, account number 4790, page 106. Anyone have any questions regarding benefit and salary reserve? Seeing none, we'll close under that. And next department organization on our agenda will be account number 4992, private school textbook, page 92. Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the mayor, I guess, at this point. $20,000 for private textbooks for the private schools has been $20,000 for a long time, as I remember. But going to all the electronics and handheld books and, you know, the iPads and whatever, is it still deemed that $20,000 is necessary to fund the private school books, textbooks?
Well, we according to Peter, there was a request for the funding today from the private schools. So, you know, we are still utilizing that money that this board expends for this through the state statute that was actually relatively recently created, probably about 10 to 12 years ago. And this is the amount that we've been doing. As you know, there are fewer private schools than there were 10 or 12 years ago. St. Anne's closed, St. Gabe's closed. However, there's an argument to be made that the population of Milford students going to those schools is approximately, or in all of Milford is approximately the same. It may be a little bit less, but at the same time, you know, the cost of books, the cost of laptops and things like that are increasing. So even though the population may have decreased a little bit, the other costs have increased, and arguably it balances itself out.
Does help them, and you know, because if we didn't help them, it would be the burden on the public schools anyway. But the point remains that, you know, e-books, pads, and whatever. I just, you know, and schools closing, being less, and though textbooks are more expensive, but getting away from that written text and that from textbook, I think we need to look at that. I mean, we need to help them. That's the bottom line. But I think in the future we need to get more accurate accounting from the private schools ask actually what they need, so that would help. Thank you.
Any more questions regarding private school textbook? Hearing none, we'll close under that one, and we'll open up the next department organization will be unallocated contingency, page 106, account number 4799. Anyone having any questions regarding unallocated contingency?
I do.
Alderman Beatty.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairperson. It may have been answered already or last year. I would anticipate that there would be a requirement for auditing to keep something in this account. Is that not so?
I'll let Peter give the real answer, but we've had money in this account in the past. It requires a vote by this board. Generally, we've just utilized money as an allocation transfer through the fund balance if we needed anything of substance, or a budget memo transfer within a department.
So you do it directly. You don't need to use this. Yeah. Okay, thank you. That answers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any more questions regarding the unallocated contingency? Hearing none, we'll close under that account. The next department organization will be the educational audit fees, account number 4993, page 93. Anyone have any questions regarding the education audit fees? Hearing none, we'll close under that account. We'll open up the next department on our agenda, would be the school debt, page 93, account number 4994. Anyone having any questions about the school debt account? Hearing none, we'll close under that account and open under the next account on our agenda. Account number 4994, employee benefits, non-teaching, page 93. Anyone having any questions regarding the employee benefits, non-teaching? Hearing none, we'll open up under the last account on our agenda, account number 4997, education dash health insurance contribution, page 94. Anyone having any questions regarding education, health insurance contribution? Alderman Vitale.
There are no questions on that. Before you adjourn, I'd like to say something.
Questions regarding the Education Health Insurance Corporation contribution? Hearing none, before we close, or before we recess, Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As many of you know, that on Saturday, April 29th, we had Drug Give Back Day, sponsored by Police Department and Milford Prevention Council. We collected 519 pounds of prescription drugs, so that made a big difference in getting those prescriptions out of houses and off the streets, literally. But I don't know how many of you know that we now officially have a drug lot box at Milford Police Department. So at any point in time, if you have outdated prescription drugs, you can go into the lobby and drop them off into a locked box. So with the cooperation of the Milford Police Department and the financial backing of Milford Prevention Council, we made that possible. So thank you. And just to give you an idea of what we're still dealing with, the last time we collected 700 pounds, the last drug give back, and this Saturday it was 519 pounds. Thank you.
Thank you for that report, Alderman Vitale. Is there a motion to recess to the next budget meeting on Wednesday, May 10th at 7 o'clock?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion has been made and seconded to recess until May 10th at 7 o'clock. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? See you all May 10th, 7 o'clock. Thank you.